And welcome to another edition of Fragments of Rock. Now, this one's a bit different because this one involves the future as well as the past. We're going to start with the future because, yes, so I understand, have an album coming out, or certainly they've been rehearsing an album. And one of the men, very, very important to this rehearsing, is a guy called Paul K Joyce from Nottingham. Paul, tell us more.
Well, I've had an association with the guitarist from Yes, Steve Howe, for many years now, since about 2007. And I did an album with him, a solo album. And he is producing their new album and invited me to contribute orchestrations for some of the tracks. I checked my schedule and I was free. So here we are. After a very, very successful, I don't mean to blow my own trumpet, so to speak, but a very successful orchestral session in Macedonia, of all places.
In Macedonia?
Yeah.
So, how did that begin? I mean, because all I remember from the past about Yes and you is that they were your heroes, and now you're working with them.
Connections can be so tenuous. I commented in an article for a PRS, which is the Performing Rights Society magazine, in 2006, saying I worshipped Yes. He read it, contacted me, and that was the beginning. So if you're a fan of someone, big them up when you talk about them. So yeah, it's a dream come true, and I've loved their music, since I was 14.
So the next question is, why does this fit into the concept of Fragments of Rock? Because during the whole of the sequence so far, we've talked about the past. Let's go back to, I think, the year 1976.
Oh.
Well, a reminder that you're listening to Extravaganza here on BBC Radio Nottingham, and we're broadcasting on 197 metres medium wave, 95.4 VHF, and also on Rediffusion Channel C. And next on the programme, meet Paul Joyce. Now, Paul comes from Nuthall. He's Nottingham born and bred, 18 years old, a mere 18. I say a mere 18, you'll understand exactly what I mean when you hear the music. Educated at Eastwood Comprehensive, which was formerly known as Eastwood Hall Park. And when he sent me this recording of his work, I was convinced that he must now be a student at some school of music, perhaps the Royal School of Music in London. This isn't the case. He is studying at Trent Polytechnic applied biology, which I find quite amazing. I think you're going to find Paul's work quite amazing as well. But first let's meet the man. I put it to Paul that since he wasn't studying music full-time, what was his musical background?
Well, sort of always very keen on the piano, and at 14 I finally got round to learning. My teacher, Mr. Dring, and he taught me for, must have been 2.5 years, and then I lost interest again, so I packed it in. Then I decided I want to take it up again, so I took it up again for about another 8 months, must have been a bit longer perhaps, and then I packed lessons in, and sort of got interested in a lot of progressive bands, Yes particularly, and developed musically in that direction.
Now, apart from the complexity of Yes's music, your music is nothing to do with Yes, is it?
No, not
really.
I
wouldn't. You surprised me actually when you said Yes. I would have thought perhaps you'd got into Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells or something.
Well, I've got that album, but I mean, apart from what the side that everybody listens to, I don't think there's all that much in it.
So really, you've done what I find, is a remarkably good tape, and yet you haven't really had much training at all.
No, not as such. In fact,
because
I
the
really
way
ought to have more.
When we hear the actual tape, we hear the piece called Sunrise. The piano playing is very heavily classical. I mean, immediately I heard you touch the keys. I said, "There's a man who's classically trained." It's not really right then.
Well, not really. No, not in the sense that I got to grade 5 on the piano, and anybody that goes anywhere in music, classically, gets up to grade 8 and then goes to, further training musically. But I didn't do any of that.
Tell me more about Sunrise now. It's a pretty complex piece, and it's all you, isn't it?
Oh yes, I played everything.
So what did you play on it?
Well, it's mainly a keyboards record. Played mellotron, a Moog synthesizer, piano, fake some guitars, acoustic, electric, bass, a little instrument called a beltry, and drums. That's about the lot.
How many overdubs are there on the record?
I think it's something like 9, and then I put some more mellotron at the end, so it's about 10 overdubs altogether.
And how long did it take you to do it?
Well, since it cost me £12 an hour, I had to do it as quickly as possible.
Now this is £12 an hour because of the studio time.
Oh yes.
The studio.
So I had to do it in, well, I managed to do it in 7 hours.
7 12.
Wow.
That's £84.
And then I had to pay for instrument hire on top of that. And
How much? I mean, you don't have to divulge the money, but how much does it come to?
oh, I would say all told, about £130, which is cheap, really, but still expensive for the amount of money I've got.
Where did you get the idea? It's called Sunrise.
I don't know. It just basically says a beginning. Sunrise is the beginning of the day. This is the beginning of, well, my future in music.
What do you see as your future in music?
Well, I've got sort of commitments up till 1979 with my course, but I don't think that'll stop me. It's mainly money, really. I've already started on another piece, but I really can't afford to record it yet. I've just got to wait until I can afford to record it.
That is amazing.
I'm
What do you think, Paul?
speechless. Wow.
You're so modest.
I love the way I said my Coldfields album. Well, there's not much in that. It was funny, really, because that was such a wonderful day. It was the 3rd of March, 1976, and the recording I was saving up for was an absolute disaster, and it set me back a bit. But what doesn't, it made me stronger, I suppose. To do that recording, it took every single ounce of my capital and my mum's to do it. To do the same thing today, I would say, I mean, studios can be £200 to £300 an hour in a good studio, and it was a good studio. So yeah, it was very expensive, and of course, the recording I was talking about in the piece, which was a follow-up, was a disaster. I tried to do the same thing again in a London studio this time, and with a poor quality 24 track. It just failed miserably. However, I picked myself up, dusted myself off, and carried on.
So, Mark, would you like to hear a bit of Sunrise? What's it feel like hearing that again, Paul?
Well, the thing is, I'm listening to the bass drum, which is spectacularly out of time, considering today's exacting standard. That bass drum part and that driving piano bass would all be chopped up audio, all quantized, but it was perfectly integrated. And I think that's what, for me, a person's played this, however badly, because I'm not a drummer. But it's wonderful. I love this piece because I'm not thinking about anybody, or I just did what I felt.
Rick Wakeman.
Oh, there was a bit of a glitch there. Can we do that one again?
There we go.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
How does it work? So I'm not nowhere near as gifted as you are. So where did you start with this kind of?
The piano. I laid down a piano track, piano all the way through. Even if it's playing quietly and it's gently playing the rhythm, I had to pick up the rhythm from that basic piano track, which is really, that's my excuse for why timing isn't so good at times. I'm not going to stick to that excuse.
Do you write that down, or is it?
I sort of.
Yeah, sorry.
It all started because I was doing my piano pieces, according to my lesson, but I was doing these other little things, these ditties, and I sort of, a bit like lots of artists do, you put things together and they sort of fit. And before I knew it, I'd created something. It's my dog barking. I'd created something. Do you want me to do this again?
No, keep going. It's great.
I love it.
And before I knew it, I'm going to close this door. Before I knew it, I'd created a long piece, which for me was quite satisfying.
Nice one. It's not available at all commercially, is it?
No, it's funny, having done this Yes session and worked with the orchestra, I would so love to just say, right, let's re-record this whole thing, with a proper orchestra. And if you could lend me the money, that would be lovely.
We're going to move on now because obviously I want to get a bit more of your life into it. The next thing I knew was I received a cassette from you, and it's gone the way of all cassettes. I'm so sorry, and I apologise, and I'm so upset about it. With a black and white photograph of a banding called Sense, and it was on cassette. Sense were very successful, weren't they?
Well, we had a fantastic time. It was a series of ups and downs, really. If I look back at it now. With the ups being a tour of Europe with Depeche Mode and Kim Wilde, and the downs being that endless trying to get record companies to engage with you and take you seriously.
And the next time I came across you, Quatermass and the Pit,
1997.
That was in a quarry, wasn't it? Was it Cropwell Bishop?
Cropwell Bishop, yeah.
Yeah, and Quatermass, to those who don't understand the story of Quatermass and the Pit, we'll read up. It's a horror story about Quatermass and the Pit. But you did the music for it.
Quintessential 60s sci-fi, which we reimagined using a cast of, it felt like hundreds in this quarry. And it was wet. That's my big thing. It was very ambitious and very well received, but it was wet. So it was quite a mess, I think.
I knew you were stressed because I went up to you expecting you to say, "Hello, John." I said, "Hello, Paul, how are you?"
I mean, we had a great time doing it. But if the weather, I wish the weather had been kinder. The first night was the night to have seen it, really.
I think I must have seen it that night because it wasn't wet.
It wasn't wet. Okay, it was terrible. And the toilets. Well, I won't go into the toilets.
No, we won't go into the toilets. It's very good. Now, the next thing I've come across was you sent me a CD.
The
Snow Queen. Recorded in Nottingham, that one.
It was. Well, 1998. You know how certain years are pivotal. And having read your autobiography, John, I know all about your particular pivotal years. But today I'm talking about me. So 1998 was pivotal because I wrote the theme. I'm going to preempt you here. The theme for Bob the Builder. I did a drama series called The Worst Witch for ITV, and I wrote The Snow Queen. So it was a momentous year. And with the help of Angela Kay and the Nottingham Choral Trust, we recorded a CD and premiered it at the Albert Hall in December of that year. It all started because a friend of mine, who sadly is no longer with us, she had breast cancer. And she said, "Would you write a song for my funeral?" So I did, and I set "Do Not Stand at My Grave and Weep," a very
yes,
famous poem, to
Yeah.
music. And the whole project and that whole thing about the Snow Queen being a story about rejuvenation through the power of love sort of really resonated with me. And I wrote that.
That's when I turned it on his head, and rather rudely I said, "How on earth could you afford that?"
Oh, how did I afford? Well, because the theme to Bob the Builder was written in 1998, but the series really didn't take off until 2 years later, and then the single. So there was interest to fund an orchestral recording of the Snow Queen. But in the end, I thought, if I don't put my money, and this is Bob the Builder money, I hired the RPO, I hired Juliet Stevenson, a team of designers and what have you, and we made the CD.
That was what you funded then, the one in London.
It was.
Because you looked at me. You looked at me straight in the eyes. You said, "John, I wrote Bob the Builder." And I kept thinking, how can a man who's written Sunrise and the Snow Queen have written Bob the Builder?
Well, I think it's the miracle of the entertainment industry, that opportunities present themselves in the most unlikely ways. And I love Bob the Builder. He's around somewhere. There's my Bob the Builder mug.
Okay.
So you have a reason to be proud. My producer, when you came into Nottingham in the about 10, 15 years ago, she was beside herself. We have some of the most famous people for me to interview in that studio, and you came through and she said, "I'm going to meet Paul K Joyce." I said, "Yeah, he's a nice bloke. He sang thimbles." She genuinely was completely and utterly in awe of you.
It's true. I didn't want to, but I did a demo, and the producers said, we got people in to sing it, and they said, no, we like your demo better. So again,
that's what it happened.
The
when the
entertainment industry.
When you got the gig with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, you wrote me a letter.
Good grief, John.
"Dear John, hope all's well. Just to let you know, the BBC have commissioned a 1-hour TV special of this Snow Queen for Christmas 2005. It's a dream come true."
Oh, it was, because all sorts of things happened. I mean, again, the clout that money brings you, because I was a big investor in that production, as were several other people that I came to know. But we shot it in Toronto, and we met some wonderful people and had a great time doing it. And it was the highest rated children's TV show of 2005.
Wow.
But it's still yet to recoup.
Oh, no, really?
Well, the DVD market has sunk beyond trace, and we're now left with streaming as the model to earn money, which is no way to earn money at all, unfortunately. Not for musicians, not for people making videos or movies.
You've had a remarkable career so far, haven't you?
Yeah, so far.
So far, exactly so far. Now, you came to the Met, was it last year or the year before? Because this COVID, I can't remember which year it was now.
I know. It was 2019, November 2019, when we last clapped eyes on each other at the Metronome venue in Nottingham.
And you were playing Celestial?
I was.
Tell me more about that.
Yes, I was listening to Radio 4. I'm a good middle-class lad. It's the station of choice. And I heard a woman, Sarah Douglas Pennant, talking about her young son, Johnny Douglas Pennant, who'd very sadly died age 7. But he'd left behind an incredible legacy of poems and writings, which were my inspiration for writing Celestial. To cut a long story short, I set this 7-year-old boy's words to music and made an album out of it. And the actor, Michael Sheen, was very kind enough to read them for me, the poems, and we made an album.
Steve Howe was involved
just before the pandemic.
Steve Howe was involved as well, wasn't he?
He was. Again, because the whole thing is for the charitable fund that Johnny Douglas Pennant's mother set up. I said, I'm not going to make any money from it. So please, could you contribute? So Steve, he came to my house and recorded steel guitar.
How wonderful!
Yeah, it was.
Sheen, where's the link between Michael Sheen and doing it? Because you can listen to that voice all day. I mean, that is just.
Well, again, I'm also trying to because of making the Snow Queen film for the BBC, I then optioned the rights to Brian Aldiss's book, Non-Stop, because I'm a real science fiction fan. And again, since I was 14, everything seems to happen when I was 14. I've loved the book Non-Stop, a science fiction classic about a generation starship. Optioned the rights, tried to get a film deal, met a director who was keen on directing it. He went to RADA with Michael Sheen. Meet Michael Sheen. Michael Sheen comes on board as executive producer, writes laps, but I keep in touch with Michael and just emailed him and said, would you do this? Thinking he's bound to say no. Why would he say yes? And he said yes. So I went over to his parents' house in Wales, in Port Talbot, and recorded it in the living room of their house.
Wow.
Which is weird. Wonderful, but weird.
So what's happening next? What else have you got in the pipeline? Because I know you don't rest. I want to do an album with synthesizers and orchestra. So that's sort of something I'm sort of composing sort of all the time. But I've more recently become heavily involved with novel writing. And I've written 4 novels, one of which has been self-published. So I'm in the process of learning, trying to get better. And but I've got a brilliant story coming out, which a local artist, graphic artist, Tom Partridge, has done the design for the cover, called Martin. And it's about a driverless car that imprisons its passenger. Brilliant.
Can I ask a naughty question? Please don't be offended by it, but I've been listening to your body of work, and it's just so brilliant and talented. But does it grate? I know the money's coming with Bob the Builder and the but does it grate on you a little bit that you remember for some of Bob? You're not the Bob Builder. I've just been naughty.
Yeah, no, I know you're getting at. No, because it's the thing about songwriting. You can write a 3-minute song, but for me, there's such pleasure in distilling a song into 40 seconds, where you need a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it's got to do all these various things. It's sort of, perhaps it's the scientist in me or the physicist, but I love that feeling of it's got to do all these various things, satisfy me and satisfy the audience. So Bob, I don't know. It was. I didn't expect it to, but it did. I mean, my favourite one is Noddy.
Did you Noddy?
Noddy as well.
Oh, I did. Which for me, musically, it's very satisfying.
Paul, it's been delightful meeting up with you again.
Oh, what can I say? Thank you, Mark. Thank you, John.
I look forward to the future for you. Okay.
Oh.